Everyday Resonance does not provide psychotherapy or medical services and is not a substitute for these services. If you have or may have a psychological or medical condition, please see a licensed professional. Hey everyone, I'm Priya Patel.
And I'm Daniel Sunshine, and you're watching Everyday Resonance, where we really look at how we can bring our best self into the world. And when we bring our best self into the world, usually that means we're attracting things in our life that are in alignment with our best self.
Absolutely. Diving into conversations weekly, sometimes with each other and often with incredible guests. Topics related to love, sex, relationships, work, friendships, and everything in between.
And today, the topic is sexual resonance. And yes, so we have sexual resonance today. And so we are really excited to talk about this. If you're listening right now and if it's safe for you, you might want to write down just some thoughts that you have. You know, what challenges are you facing in your connection with others? From this perspective, or maybe what are some areas that you want to kind of find improvement in? When you think about sexual resonance, some other thoughts that come to mind is like conscious connecting, mindful sex, bringing mindfulness into this experience of connecting with another person.
Yeah, also even like, awareness of maybe some patterns and habits or your mindset related to the concept of sex. I think that's something I'd love to dive into conversation if we get there today.
Yeah.
We have an incredible guest with us today. She's actually traveling in Russia at the moment, so we have her on via Skype. If for some reason we lose feed today, just bear with us and we will bring her back as soon as possible. So Iryna is a sex, love, and relationship coach with a specialized focus on men's empowerment and sexuality. She has clients all over the world, as well as her home base in New York. She is an advocate for the awakened masculinity and healthy integrated sexuality. Iryna is also a Tantra educator and has co-facilitated workshops on conscious sexuality and Tantra for singles and couples in New York City. She's extremely passionate about helping people bring consciousness into lovemaking and thus infusing each aspect of their lives with harmony, joy, and fulfillment. So grateful to have you here.
Yeah, let's welcome Iryna Sulim to the show.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
joining us, Iryna.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Pierre. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on your show here today.
Wonderful. So as we've been researching the work that you do, which it seems really profound and impactful, we noticed you have something that you say, which is how you show up in sex is how you show up in life. And so if you could tell us more about what you mean by that, that would be great.
Yeah, for sure. So what I really mean by that is that I equate sex to life and life to sex. So if we really think in a spiritual terms and spiritual distinctions and all these cosmic language, when man and a woman come together and they connect and they have this incredible exchange of energy, the sexual experience, and the new life is born out of that, right? So a new soul is born. So this is, we never really think about it, but it's a sacral and really magical process. And so when I say this to men, how you show up in sex is how you show up in life, it's really is in mythology and the Hinduism, male energy is all about consciousness and female energy is all about life force energy, right? So what I mean, when I compare these, man comes into contact with a woman with a female energy, that means with the life force energy, right? So the consciousness comes into contact with the life force. And with that, if a man shows up in a relationship with the woman, present and powerful and fully connected to her feminine essence, how this is how he shows up in life and in his other pursuits, in his work, in his business, in how he is with his friends, whether he is responsible or he is blaming all of it that is happening in his life on his woman, or whether he is showing up as a little boy and needy and not really taking the full responsibility and taking the ownership. And is he showing up this way in life? So this is the connection that I make. And that's what I essentially mean by how you show up in sex and how you show up in life.
It's interesting that you define it that way. You know, for Daniel and I have defined resonance and everyday resonance as being taking a look at how one is showing up, their beliefs, their ideas, their emotions, their thoughts in all their actions. And you are basically saying that when it comes to sex or lovemaking with a partner, whether it's man to woman or, you know, any other female to female or male to male, the energetic connection is what's important, correct?
Yes, that's what's important, yes. And also, if you look at it, everything in life, whenever we come in contact with everything in life, it's all, everything has, we make sex all the time, actually, with nature, with things we come in contact with. And this is what I draw the parallel here.
So, Iryna, wonderful. Yeah, lots of big ideas that you're sharing right now. And that was all, you know, that what we just discussed was inspired by this question of, or this statement of how you show up in sex is how you show up in life. And so I hear Iryna and Priya referring to kind of, you know, what we're bringing into our own life, or I guess the state of our own healing, the state of our energy is going to impact how we're showing up in a sexual connection with another person. And so, you know, we work with a broad audience on Everyday Resonance, some of which are, you know, interested in these topics, some of which are learning about them for the first time. So I'd like to ask you, Iryna, you have a client that doesn't know anything about conscious connection. And they've heard that you might be able to help them because they're facing, let's say, challenges in that type of connection. And they come to you. What's the first thing, let's say, that you would share with them about what you're able to bring that can lead to this type of conscious lovemaking and conscious connection?
Great question. I guess the first thing that I will start is, what is it that they're desiring to work with me on, or what is it that, why are they in need of, what is it that they, what is it that they're looking for in work with me?
So let's say they come to you and they say that they feel, you know, maybe that they're not really getting fulfillment with their partner. It's something where it feels disconnected. So, you know, what are some ways that you would approach sharing how they could bring consciousness into that situation?
So first of all, it's obviously communication. It's the conscious communication. And this is something that I usually start, any conscious sexual experience starts with the addressing what's coming up in the present moment, whether that's any kind of fears, or what are your desires and what are your needs, and how we can safely create the space to communicate those. And this is what I usually encourage my clients to bring up to their partners.
Yeah, and so great. So it sounds like we're working with this idea of conscious connection being related to what the energy we bring to the experience. And then if there is a scenario where it's blocked, then communication is an important tool. Do you have specific ways that you advise your clients to communicate with each other when, let's say, they're in the act of connecting in this way and something comes up that might be challenging or difficult? And I would imagine in that scenario, conscious communication comes in. What would you suggest or recommend? How would someone work with that?
So, you mean people are in the sexual experience, and then something comes up?
If someone said, like, if it gets awkward in a sexual experience, and communication is the tool, like how does that look? What does that look like if someone wants to use communication to get closer to their partner?
Well, I feel like when this situation actually happens and people are in a sexual experience and, there's something is awkward and something isn't working and something is bothering one of the partners, it's important to voice that this is what's happening at the moment. Not a lot of us are trained and not a lot of us are eager to do so. And that comes through perhaps training, right? So if you are not feeling comfortable, if she's not feeling comfortable, he's not feeling comfortable or awkward in that situation, stop the whole thing and just say, hey, I'm just not feeling okay here. Can we just have a moment of connecting our energies and just like talking about it for a bit? And the other partner, and there shouldn't be like this blaming or shouldn't be this, energy of like, okay, well, defensiveness or anything like
so
that of that nature.
Or
Judgment of the experience. So how we bring it up is hugely important, right? So instead of for a woman to like lash out or just do something, hey, what you doing? She's like, hey, honey, I really enjoy what you're doing, but there is something that isn't right for me right now. Can we just stop and talk about it? And if that is delivered in that fashion, with that soft, gentle energy, it will be hard. And then once it's hard, the communication continues. Okay, well, this is what came up for me. This is what I am probably feeling awkward, or I'm not feeling comfortable, or this is my boundary. I can't go any further with this experience, so and so. And
so it's such an important point that you're bringing up. It's bringing up things for me. I can clearly and honestly, vulnerably say that I've had a very unhealthy relationship to sex up until this point in my life. Everything from abuse to neglect related to it, as well as using it often as a coping mechanism mindlessly. I can imagine that this is something that you might see often, anyone who has experienced, let's say, sexual trauma in their life. The thing that you are talking about is communication. However, for those who have had sexual trauma, that one piece is the piece that doesn't come easy at all. And I know, like for myself, doing work with a sex therapist as well as with a tantra educator, which is I know something that you do, hasn't been about having, like, let's say, mind-blowing sex, which is something that could come and
we'll
can be part of it.
Yeah.
But for me, it has been just learning connection in general, like to reconnect when connection was something that was missing in my life and something that I was longing for, and maybe using it in odd ways or coping mechanism ways. Like really now discovering this amazing connection to myself, and therefore being able to connect to a partner using, let's say if I disconnect, to be able to bring a partner back in my life, maybe with some energy games, knowing that I'm an energetic soul or an energetic person, and that's like my style. Is that something, how often do you see clients who might have, let's say, sexual trauma or any other kind of trauma that is impacting their ability to to be present in the face of lovemaking or sex?
Yeah, a really good question and really great points you're bringing up. It is very important for people who have had sexual trauma, sexual wounding, to perhaps, well, if they're aware of it and have been working on it and have been healing it, to bring it up ahead of time to the partner they wanting to connect with. So that partner is aware to be extra present and extra conscious to the whole experience. But the other part is, and what I been learning through my coaching program I've done and through the clients I've worked with, female clients, exploring your own body, learning how to feel safe in your body.
Yes.
And that does not come easy, and that does not come in just like one piece. It's a work in progress. Learning how to really feel safe in your body.
I love that.
Sure.
Yeah, and this is the most important. Once you feel safe in your body, there's so much opens up.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
So yeah.
I think that's like another valid point, like learning how to feel safe in your own skin, in your own body. Like for me, it came in so many different ways, everything from connecting to myself via dance and art and movement and like also getting my mindset right, in the shape of self-love and self-worth. So I think the work that you're doing is so needed and incredible.
And so, on this path of resonance that Priya and I talk about a lot, the first step is awareness. It's really becoming aware of that I'm responsible for my inner experience, my emotions, my thoughts, physical sensations, that sort of thing. They're mine. And so then from that awareness, starting to look at like, where am I stuck in my system? And it sounds like awareness really plays a strong role here as well. This coming responsible for what I bring. And then also I imagine, Iryna, the stuckness, is there an element in your practice where your clients kind of go through trauma resolution or some sort of healing practice in order to become better at connecting with others from a sexual perspective?
Yeah, so I work with low-grade trauma with my clients, or these can be sexual wounding or sexual conditioning that a lot of us have, and a lot of us have had. It can be a religious background. It can be something that a little boy, a little girl saw or did that was shamed. So this is what we basically go through in my sessions with clients. Decondition that belief, that narrative that's been created, that sex is dirty, sex is taboo, and then that sex is shameful, and that masturbation is shameful, and so on and so forth. So we relearn it in our sessions. I help my clients to rewire and to write a system and start getting used to different narrative. And it all happens through the embodiment practices. And I give a lot of homework for my clients to do. It's breathwork practices, and also self-pleasure meditations that I record for them. And they kind of like relate to their body, not in that mechanical getting off kind of style just to be done with it because, there's tension that needs to be removed. But in a way where there's so much love and so much connection and so much awe and reverence and actually exploration of their subtle sensations, being with the body. That's what the most important have been for as a tools that I offer to the clients.
Gosh, all of that sounds all related to being present. When you're saying like to notice the subtle sensations, in order to notice the subtle sensations, a person has to be able to shut out the noise. And that noise could be related to your emotions, your thoughts, your beliefs, your past conditioning. So that's great that you're including meditation practices as well as body work, breath work. Fantastic.
And I think that leads well into maybe transitioning the conversation right now. In a way, we're kind of talking on the path of becoming aware. We talked about this awareness of our internal experience, how what we are like inside equates to, how we bring ourselves into a sexual experience. Now let's look at the, cultivating this connection in a really positive, healthy way, the joy, the amazing elements that can come out of sexual experiences. And Priya was just referring to the exercises that you give people. So now let's look on the other side of this equation. When someone comes to you and they say they want to expand the joy, the bliss, the connection, where do you go with that?
Okay, so the bliss and the joy and the expansion of all of this ecstasy, it's all getting deeper into the body. It's not about going to a play party and eating, a bunch of,
I see what you're saying.
And do this swinging experience.
Yes.
And even though this is all good and beautiful, but in my personal view, the joy and the real ecstasy comes when you get even deeper into your body and learning not to just chase the orgasms that we're so used to, but getting into the depth of the sensations and the subtleties, and then the practices like doing breathing together with your partner, doing eye gazing and doing the focusing your awareness in different chakra energy centers and breathing together in sync during lovemaking. All of that is going to expand your system even more and bring so much ecstasy to your body, and those multiple orgasms and full body energy orgasms are going to show up for you more and more and more, and hence that the safety already is created for both partners and communication is already there.
And so, and so
play parties are great.
So, you bring up eye gazing, you bring up breathing together, and those are simple practices that are so profound. So you mentioned, breathing into different chakras together. These can go into a lot of depth. And I know that getting to certain levels of this type of connection can take time and practice. But even if people out there are just hearing about this for the first time, try with your partner, of course, a safe container, in a place where you're both, wanting to do this together and it feels like a good time to do it. You can try eye gazing. That's something that if you have not done that before, that can be deeply connecting, or breathing together. Both those things alone can start you down this type of path in a really profound way. So we have, go ahead.
I just, before we wrap up here today, I wanted to ask you, since we have you on the line, of what's your favorite practice that you would give to a client who wanted to become more connected to a partner? Like a simple practice that you have that really speaks to you.
Well, I really love the practice that I call fears, desires, and loves. So before the intimacy with the partner, one of the partners creates this container to actually share with another. Oh, actually, they both agree that this is what we're going to do, right? We're going to share fears, desires, and love. So they go kind of like, first she goes and she says all her fears about
I
their
love
intimacy, about their relationship and things like that. And then he goes, and all they do while them is speaking, they just listen. And at the end, they say thank you. And then the second one are desires. And then the last one is what they love about each other.
Yeah.
So
sweet.
this is one of my favorite. This has always worked, and it actually brings out so much anxiety out of the container and out of the intimate bubble. And it's just like this clean slate. You can go into intimacy and enjoy each other and be totally in your body and not be like running any kind of bullshit thoughts in your head.
So once again, it comes down to communication, because that, to be able to share, you have to be able to feel comfortable enough or create an environment that you can share those fears and desires without judgment. And not to say that you act on any of them, but it's something that you share, and maybe together you choose to act on or not, and setting some boundaries with each other as far as being able to be safe.
Yeah, for sure. And this is the practice to be doing for those who are in a long-term relationship and have been together for a while. But for the people who just met.
Yeah, I love that. Dating, somebody who's just dating.
Yeah, what's the advice there?
Yeah, well, it's probably one of the people who are more conscious. I, for example, I'm dating, right? Mm-hmm. So I bring this out to my partner, like, even though I'm willing to show up vulnerably here.
Yeah.
Because I want this experience with this man, if it goes there, to be sacral conscious. I want that sexual connection to be the way my needs are about it, right? The way I desire it to be. So I am willing to be vulnerable, and I'm going to offer this practice. Or maybe it's going to be a little dimmed down, or I'm going to just see where to bring it up, because you don't bring it up on the first date or second date, right? You just kind of see where the energy goes for that particular dating partner. And then you decide, okay, well, it's time to probably move on into the intimacy. And that's where you start having that conversation before you just get into.
Yeah. So you are choosing to be an active participant here, whether dating or long term. It's about actively choosing to be this way.
Yeah.
So the difference between let's say conscious and unconscious connection. Would you say that, well, actually, let's just say the mechanical, kind of the usual, what we know to be sex often, kind of the workup, and then maybe leading up to an orgasm, maybe the orgasm is the focus of the experience. And then in this scenario, my sense is that, there's a spectrum, as in with almost everything. And it's just different ways of doing things. On this end of the spectrum, there's just a wide array of ways that one can access different types of experiences. Some of them, just ecstatic, some of them kind of miraculous, some of them connecting so deeply. So I would almost say, like, the typical way, it's very linear, and it's kind of just one path that leads to this experience of a climax. Whereas this is more of an adventure of wide-ranging experience of stuff that can rise up to, some different types of levels. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on the difference between, connecting the usual way and then in this way.
Yeah. Well, the usual way is the one that, we learn from porn. Like, this is our education. And the man is usually performing, and he's always hard, and he's always and the woman is making noises, orgasming. And this is what, when a woman comes into a real actual sexual experience, that's the expectation is. And if it's not happening, then it's kind of ruined. So that's where the unconsciousness comes into play. This expectation of performance for men, and wanting to not to actually disappoint and lead a woman to orgasm. And the woman, in the same way, she's either making those sounds and either faking that orgasm, or she is not really enjoying it because she's like lost in her voice and can't really say that, well, that's not working. And this is the example of like unconscious. And then none of it is fulfilling. Nobody is satisfied. And it's kind of like awkward, but nobody really talks about it.
Nobody talks about it.
And
nobody really shares what happens. And then, well, the conscious sex is the opposite. It's again, everything slows down. Like all these tantra tools, the eye gazing, the breathing, all of it comes into play. But also, as we already talked about, the conscious communication and that. And not really expecting for anything to happen, because every time you get into a sexual
no expectations.
Every night is different. Every week it's different. What happened 2 weeks ago, it's not necessarily going to happen the same way, exactly the same today.
That's true.
Knowing that, and knowing that for Ryan, for example, how can he own his soft one, right? That's very important as well. Well, your body, your genitals, both female and male, have intelligence. And if the man is soft, well, there is a reason behind it. So not to write it, not to go into like this, excuse me, sheepish, boyish energy where he is ashamed of the situation. But really like, okay, well, I'm soft. Maybe we can play with that too. Be creative, that's very important for both partners. The usual scenario, how linear, like you said, people go into is they kiss, he goes down on her, she orgasms, then there's penetration happens, and he comes and it's over.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe the picture that's being painted that I'm hearing is in the traditional way. It's more of an act that there is connection. There's beautiful connection. There can be, tremendous sensations, and sometimes there's not. But this conscious way of connecting, it allows for a lot more healing in the experience. Maybe even coming closer to your partner. There's a lot of opportunity for deeper connection, for improving the way you're communicating together. And it's almost like going down on this journey together of exploration without expectation and without judgment. And Iryna, I thank you so much for coming to us from Russia today. Yeah. That's some of the audio challenges, but it seems like we got some information forward. In Everyday Resonance, our goal and our passion is to bring information forward that will help others in their journey of living the best life that they can live. Absolutely. And I feel, Iryna, you shared some excellent information today, lots to be inspired by, especially on this, somewhat inspiring topic. People kind of like sex, So Iryna, thanks so much for being with us today. Go ahead,
Absolutely.
Priya.
Find her on Instagram if you're interested, and as well as on her website. On Instagram, she's basically Iryna.Sulim, and obviously the @
Sulim,
symbol.
yeah, Iryna.Sulim.
And you can find her there, and as well as on Facebook and on her website. So thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to tune in every day to yourself, and then every week, Everyday Resonance. You can find us on Facebook Live, YouTube,
iTunes.
Listen on iTunes, Spotify, and
we just got on iHeartRadio, which is really exciting.
I'm excited to join in with you and connect back next week. Bye. Have a great day.
Bye. Thank you so much.